G'day guys, welcome to the channel. Now you might be wondering, if us two are together and you can hear some dozers going in the background, that some interesting things might be happening, and you're probably right. What we've got going on here is we've got Tiny 2 and Tiny 3. Now Tiny 1 is the one that's being worked on, and we're actually going to be saying goodbye to Tiny 2 in the not too distant future. So it's being moved on to someone else. So we thought, what better way before we start pulling this down, because it needs to be transported, we'll do one last hurrah. And so far it's pretty well won every contest we've put it in, mainly because it's got more traction due to the extra lugs being welded onto it. But Tiny 3 is going to have to try and prove itself. So that's going to be the replacement for Tiny 2. So what we've had to do, we've just got a buffer of dirt in the middle, because you don't want the blades touching each other, just with the cutting edges and things like that. It's just not pretty. So we're going to even up this dirt a bit more, so it's just going to be a pile there. We've just quickly pushed these together, and then we're just going to push face on face and see what happens. Well guys, we did that test, and you would have seen from the footage that I think Tiny 2 just had the edge. So that makes sense with the extra lugs. But we're going to flip them around now and do some tug of war with some straps. So we can test it then anyway.
We got one test.
One test. Let's hope we don't break the straps on the one test. So we did do a tug of war video a little while back. I'll put the link up in the corner there and also in the description. So go check that out if you're interested in the straps. I go into a bit more detail about them there. But what we got here is two 5-ton lifting straps. Now we use these a lot for just, well, they're quite small, so you can carry them anywhere, and just for pulling stuff out, they're quite strong for their size. But if you can't get a run up and hit them with it, doesn't do them so good, or doesn't do whatever you're attached to any good. But you can see here they're 5-ton rated, and you can see there they're brake tested to 7 times that, but in our experience it's more like 10 times. So this should be able to hold 50 ton. This one here should be able to hold 50 ton, and two of them together we should have a tug of war without them breaking. And what we're also going to do is to show that it doesn't really matter if the tracks are spinning or not. It's all about just traction in general. What we'll do is we'll do a tug of war, a normal tug of war, where we're both just going and wait till we spin. If the straps don't break, what we'll do is we'll just leave Tiny 2 stationary and see if Tiny 3 can pull that along, which it shouldn't, because Tiny 2 has better traction. Righto guys, so test is over, and it actually seems like it was harder to pull Tiny 3 backwards when it was stationary. So what we've suspected is that it actually creates a bit of a ramp behind the back tracks, and it's actually harder to pull it when the tracks aren't moving than it is when it's spinning. And you can see that from the footage where Tiny 2 just walked away with Tiny 3 once the tracks on Tiny 3 were spinning. So that's just a little test example of a bit of fun we get up to. Just, I mean, we've got D11s, you might as well do something fun with them. So make it scientific and educational at the same time. So it's a win-win. Have you got any final words, Dad?
Hey, about what?
Well, what do you think? Was that what you expected, or?
It was, but probably Tiny, they were probably a bit closer when they were pulling. I thought Tiny 2 might do it a little bit easier, but it was a good struggle, wasn't it? But yeah, it did win.
I thought that was, I was very surprised how much it actually struggled just pulling Tiny 3 stationary. Like,
yes, well you were saying that it was harder to pull it backwards stationary with the brakes on it than it was with them spinning. Once they started spinning, you lost traction and you lost any hope of holding it. So we decided to move it over onto fresh grass, the strap pull, and so that took out any doubt that one had the advantage from loose soil or whatever. So they were both on unturned or what's the word I want?
Or on firm ground.
On firm ground, that's it. And undisturbed, that's it. Undisturbed. So that was as good a test as I think we can possibly do, isn't it?
I think so, but you reckon that's a fitting farewell for Tiny 2?
I think, and it's still too wet for Andrew to take delivery of it too, so Tiny 1 might get down here yet. We might actually get the 3 of them together.
Who knows?
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, that'd be wild. I wonder what, shoot down in the comments, what can we do with 3 of them?
But the other thing is, what we noticed with these 2 straps, they didn't creak or groan at all, did they? There was no indication that they were near the end of their limit.
No, that was impressive actually. I thought it was going to be 50-50 whether they broke or not. Anyway, it's a bit of fun. Now we've got to clean up our mess.